NCIS Origins explores Gibbs' history back before NCIS was established. Gibbs is displaying his most vulnerable side in the prequel, which is the focus of the series, as a man who doesn't often get personal. Additionally, NCIS Origins is hinting at a sinister and sad conclusion to a tale he doesn't often share. Despite spending 18 seasons with Gibbs on the main program, viewers still don't know much about him. He is violating Rule 91 by having old Gibbs narrate the narrative, just like he did in Alaska. Given that the series teases a tale concerning her, breaching Rule 91 appears to be quite important because Gibbs doesn't mince words. After all these years, Gibbs has a cause for opening the box of his past once more. History has long buried the past. Gibbs doesn't seem to want to let go of whatever happened, even though it's been decided. Rather, he is adamant on uncovering the past. Leroy Gibbs adheres to a set of guidelines. His first marriage and his military service are the origins of the set of regulations. Gibbs established his own guidelines to help him deal with potentially difficult circumstances in both his personal and professional lives. Since he was not coerced into making these regulations, it is crucial that he abide by his own code of behavior. If he doesn't intend to follow through, there's really no need in making them. Although Gibbs is something of a rule breaker, and was taught early on that rules are intended to be violated, there is one rule that has particular significance that he finds difficult to break. Although it might seem startling, Gibbs' book has 91 rules. The last rule on Gibbs' list is revealed by NCIS in Season 18, Episode 16, Rule 91, which also describes Bishop's departure from the program and predicts Gibbs' choices in Season 19, when he chooses to remain in Alaska. Every significant occasion in Gibbs' life, and some of his most significant choices, are based on Rule 91. The goal of Rule 91 is to move on. It reads, "When you decide to walk away, never look back." Given that many real-life people abide by this rule, it is not surprising that it is so relevant. It also makes logic to Gibbs. He has a number of ex-wives and romantic partners. He has handled difficult issues and experienced some really trying times. There are many ghosts and shadowy areas in Gibbs' history, thus the capacity to move on and walk away is crucial to keeping him moving on, rather than letting the past consume him and causing him to talk about it. Gibbs is embarking on a new chapter in his life by deciding to remain in Alaska. He isn't reflecting on his time spent on NCIS. NCIS Origins does, however, show him reflecting on a bygone era. One of the most crucial guidelines in Gibbs' book is broken in the prequel series, as Mark Harmon's character lays down the story he doesn't tell, telling the story from the future naturally. Breaching the rule shows how important the tale is. There must be a compelling reason to share the narrative in NCIS Origins for a man like Gibbs, who keeps things private and seldom looks back. Although the law states that choosing to walk away is linked to not looking back, Gibbs is entitled to glance back since he is choosing to return to that period of his life. Writing everything down in a diary demonstrates that Gibbs isn't just reflecting on the past, he is motivated to share the narrative that he has been putting off for a long time. This suggests that the plot of NCIS Origins is significant from a personal and professional standpoint. Gibbs lost his first wife and kid a few months before to the start of the series. They never apprehended the murderer, and it is discovered that he lost them while serving in the army. It is impossible to imagine the anguish and shame that little Gibbs was experiencing. But it also marks a significant turning point in his life. After returning home, Gibbs joined the NCIS. Gibbs was able to put his life back together and discover a new purpose by investigating crimes and working on cases. Fans can see, though, that Austin Stowell's Gibbs in NCIS Origins is a far cry from the character he would play in the main series. He hardly enters the room where he will be questioned. Gibbs goes undercover for the first time in Episode 6. For the first time, he also disobeys his own rules and nearly discards everything. This particular stage of Gibbs' life can be linked to everything he would later traverse with skill. The paths he took that helped mold him into the person he is now are described in NCIS Origins. Naturally, sharing a tale he doesn't typically share also entails being honest and vulnerable. Gibbs is able to put down a lot of things that he would not discuss with another person. This includes acknowledging Lala Doming's and Mike Frank's, who inspired him to develop the rules and taught him important lessons. Although Gibbs seldom violates Rule 91, he does so in NCIS Origins because the information he must convey is valuable. Rule 91 is crucial to Gibbs' survival as a man who has experienced what he has seen and witnessed what he has witnessed, in contrast to Rule 21, never date a coworker, which is more of a cautionary tale about poor choices and untidy outcomes. Fans are still unaware of the rule's genesis. Given the extremely thin tin box Gibbs uses to store his initial set of Army rules, it is reasonable to assume that Rule 91 was not in place at the time. The box is too thin to hold 91 pieces of paper. This suggests that Rule 91 was added later and may be connected to the reason Gibbs is reflecting on the past in NCIS Origins. Gibbs was devastated by the loss of his first wife and kid. Fans may witness Gibbs entering the bombing zone after hearing the news in a flashback in NCIS Origins. It was especially difficult for Gibbs to discard his wife's and child's belongings when he returned home. It was emotionally taxing, but Gibbs made it through. He was able to go, one step at a time, but it's noteworthy to note that Rule 91 hasn't been implemented yet, indicating that the establishment of Rule 91 wasn't prompted by his decision to move on from the loss of his wife and kid. The rule of never looking back, which Gibbs created out of a lack of empathy, was the result of another incident. His heart is at the center of it all. Since Gibbs is actively coping with his loss and grief following the killings of his wife and kid, he does not invoke this rule. Since he is allowing the past to become a part of his present rather than leaving anything behind, he doesn't need to consciously choose to move on. Additionally, the youthful Gibbs lacks the maturity to abandon things like the older Gibbs does. Young Gibbs is a better agent because he has more heart and is more willing to let cases influence him, given how much focus NCIS Origins places on Lala Domings and implies that this is a tale about her. It is conceivable that Lala is involved in the creation of Rule 91. The fact that Gibbs will experience yet another crucial moment in the story is nearly heartbreaking, and it might have a negative impact on Lala's destiny. Gibbs would have to make the difficult choice to let go of something, and to keep from looking back, which speaks to remorse, unresolved emotions, and difficult choices that Gibbs would probably not be proud of. Gibbs also leaves a part of himself in the past by refusing to look back. If this is true, then violating Rule 91 may be Gibbs' means of reclaiming that lost aspect of himself and reconciling with his regrets and inner demons.